It can be hard to understand, but fear of freedom is a real thing. The movie The Shawshank Redemption, a film loved by a lot of people, is a film about a prison and the prisoners who are in that prison. One of them, who has been in prison for most of his life, finally gains parole in his old age. And he gets a job packing groceries for customers in a supermarket. Not used to the relatively free reign that he has on the outside, he keeps asking permission to go to the toilet during the workday. He keeps having to learn to think for himself and do his own thing. He keeps having to learn how to deal with the public in a new way. In the end, it becomes too much for him, and he's found dead in the room he was renting, having committed suicide. It was either that or face going back inside. Fear of freedom can be a real thing. And that's real for so many people. And it's what Jesus encounters in the famous story related in Matthew chapter 8. You can read it for yourself. It's often referred to as the Gennesaret demoniacs, where Jesus arrives in a region where two demon-possessed men who live amongst the tombs are ruining local life because they are so violent that no one could cut through that way. Jesus drives the demons out of the men. The demons enter a herd of pigs, and the pigs run off the cliffside into the water. And we read this, verse 34 of Matthew 8. The whole town went out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave their region. They pleaded with Jesus to leave. They'd just done what they'd longed to see done. The men freed, the threat of violence diminished, and they want Jesus to leave. Jesus, you see, has gone into a place of death, the tombs. He's gone into a place that people feared, the tombs which were being lived amongst by these two men prone to violence. He'd gone there, he'd confronted the place of death, he'd confronted the threat of violence, and he'd caused, in a sense, more violence through the death of the herd of pigs into which the demons were driven. The men are free. The people remain scared. Jesus, you see, has upended life in that area. He has shown everyone around them a new way of living, a new kind of reality. A reality where there is more to life than they think there is. There is a different power than that which they've previously come across. He is starting to give people a responsibility to embrace that power and to use it, to free people, to go into the places of death and bring life. But who wants to go into a place of death? And who wants their life upended? And who wants to have to grasp a whole new realm of reality? I think also of the rich young man who had obeyed all the rules, all the commandments, yet who goes away sad from meeting Jesus because he knew he'd have to give up so much of what he'd clung on to and give it to the poor, a life upended. Instead of pleading with Jesus to leave, the rich young man turns his back. How many of us are afraid of these places of death in our own lives, the places which are too difficult, which require too much disturbance for us to allow Jesus to enter and upend? How many of us are scared of the freedom that Jesus will bring in those areas, because it will mean a totally new set of priorities, a totally new understanding of everything that we had previously thought about life and death and that which lies beyond death? Do we plead with Jesus to leave? Do we turn our back and walk away sad? Or do we invite Jesus into those places of death in our own lives? Allow him to bring a new life, a supernatural reality that, yes, upends everything we thought we knew, but brings life where there was death, peace where there was violence, freedom where there was captivity. It's a question each of us face, and it's a question Jesus still asks us today. Will you let me into your places of death? I stand at the door and knock, and it's up to us to let him in. So may you and I, may St. Peter's be a community which allows Jesus into our places of death personally and communally, letting Jesus graciously upend all that we thought we knew, imbuing to us the power to work with him, to bring life and freedom where previously there is death and violence. May we experience that ourselves and be those who lead others to experience it for themselves. Amen.